Let's illustrate how to report during these conditions. Assume your normal observation time is 7 a.m. A storm moves in shortly after your morning observation, and snow accumulates steadily from 8 a.m. until the storm suddenly ends at 2 p.m. Then the sun comes out, the temperature warms, and the snow both settles and melts, so that by the next morning there are only 3 inches left on the ground and snowboard. What should you report for your daily snowfall and your depth of snow on the ground readings when you measure at 7 a.m. the next morning? At your observation time, the snow depth is clearly 3 inches, so that is what you must report for snow on ground at observation. But you should report 6 inches for your 24-hour snowfall amount, since that was the accumulation before melting and settling. Let's look at this illustration again. Report the greatest accumulation of fresh snow to the nearest 1/10 inch as your snowfall total, and report the depth remaining on the ground at your regularly scheduled time of observation at the nearest whole inch as your at observation snow on the ground report. Of course, don't forget to measure and report the water content that accumulated in the overflow can of your rain gauge. If snow melts immediately and never accumulates to 1/10 of an inch or greater, report a trace for your snowfall amount and record 0 for your depth at time of observation. If you experience a series of snow showers where snow accumulates but then melts before the next shower arrives, report daily snowfalls as the sum of the maximum accumulation from each shower. Do your best and report your uncertainty.
When we're measuring the total depth of snow at the ground, that's easy. We measure it right at the time, at your scheduled time of observation. But when we're measuring snowfall, what we're really trying to measure is the most accumulation that we've gotten during the day before it begins to melt or settle. And to get the best measurement of that maximum accumulation, you might have to read before your standard observation time. You may want to read it right as the snow is ending, diminishing.
In some parts of the country, particularly the northern states, and in mountainous areas, some observers will be requested to report snow water equivalent. This daily or weekly measurement is very important to hydrologists, flood forecasters, and water supply planners. This is simply the total depth of water in a sample containing all old snow plus any new snow that has fallen in the past 24 hours. To measure snow water equivalent, find a location where the current snow depth is close to the average snow depth on the ground. Place your 8-inch diameter overflow can and press it straight down until it cuts a core sample to the ground. Brush excess snow away to the outside and make sure all the snow and ice from the core remain in the gauge. Then melt the sample by adding measured amounts of warm water. Continue like any precipitation measurement, being careful to subtract out the depth of warm water you added. If you have deep or very icy snow, it may take large quantities of warm water to completely melt the core. Always check to make sure your observation is reasonable and consistent. An alternative method is weighing snow samples with a set of special scales provided by the National Weather Service. Here's a list of tips that will help you be accurate and consistent. If possible, use a snowboard for a consistent accumulation. When you clear your snowboard, place it gently on the surface of the existing snow cover. When measuring drifted snow, measure in protected areas if possible. Take an average of as many readings as necessary to get a reasonable and representative estimate of both the fresh snowfall and the total depth of snow on the ground. Ideally, all observations should be taken at the same time each day, but it sometimes may be prudent to read when the snow ends. Cooperative observers usually measure once per day, but observers may take snowfall measurements as often as every 6 hours. Measuring and clearing snowboards more frequently than this is not acceptable, as snowfall totals could be inflated. When melting and measuring frozen precipitation, pour carefully and avoid spilling. Don't assume a particular snow-to-water ratio. It will vary from storm to storm. 10 inches of snow does not always contain 1 inch of liquid water. In low humidity climates, keep in mind significant evaporation losses can occur. In these cases, it may be best to measure soon after precipitation is ended. Be on the lookout for rain gauge leaks. Have a backup observer in the wings in case you can't be around, a neighbor, a relative, someone who lives nearby. Report precipitation to the nearest 1/100th of an inch, snowfall data in inches and tenths, and snow depth to the nearest whole inch. Record data on forms provided. Be accurate. Make sure you enter the right information in the proper column. You've been patient up to this point, so don't rush. Make use of remarks to describe your observation. Remember, people may be using your reports generations into the future. If you're asked by the National Weather Service to report snow water equivalent, also enter this on your form with remarks.
Accurately recording your observation is just as important as taking an accurate observation. Keeping in mind you need to make your entries legible on the form so it's easily read by other people. The precipitation is entered to the nearest 1/100th of an inch. The snowfall is entered to the nearest 1/10th of an inch. And the snow depth is entered to the nearest inch.
Finally, don't be caught off guard. Get your snowboard out before the first snowfall and bring your funnel and measuring tube inside.
Good luck with your snow measurements. If you have any questions, please contact your National Weather Service representative or take a look at the copy of the snow measurement guidelines that they've provided.
Simply put, our co-op observers are the eyes of the National Weather Service. Even though we, the National Weather Service, have various types of equipment such as radar and satellite pictures, there's really nothing more important than ground truth information.
The raw power and unblemished beauty of snow creates a range of emotions. Sometimes it paralyzes. Sometimes it sets people free. Innocent and savage, this life-giving resource can sometimes be difficult to corral. The constant remains the need to maintain watch over this mysterious and challenging force. Elusive and dynamic, chaotic and serene. It's up to you to help us understand one of nature's most complex and beautiful riddles.